Hello, it's a Tuesday, August 26th. Welcome to another episode of the Mituye News. If you haven't gotten a chance yet, please subscribe to the Substack. You'll see the link in the description. It really is the heart of this endeavor. Subscribe if you haven't. You'll see the stories that we pick for the video element, as well as many more if you subscribe to that Substack. And if you have already, share it with people that you know. I think they'll find it useful. Today, we'll start in Europe. We'll start with the UK. The UK has a political party that's looking to make some significant reforms. It's pledging to shift the country's stance if it wins dramatically in relation to immigration and deportation and asylum claims and so on. So let's take a look at what we got. UK's hard right reform party pledges mass deportations if it wins power. Okay, let's see what we got. Nigel Farage, the leader of Britain's hard right reform UK party, said Tuesday that if he wins the next election, he will leave the European Convention on Human Rights and immediately detain and deport anyone who arrives in the country illegally, including children. Farage laid out his plans following a significant rise in migrants who arrive by boat across the English Channel, and weeks of protest over the government's use of hotels to house asylum seekers. Quote, if you come to the UK illegally, you will be detained and deported and never ever allowed to stay, period, Farage told a press conference. So yeah, he's saying, elect me. If they put me on, I'm getting them the hell up out of here, and they never coming back. So basically, it looks like they're trying to capture what seems to be growing frustration amongst many people in the UK about the rise, the number of migrants that did not come with authorization, right? That like many people have arrived. They're coming across the channel, and we are having to allocate resources to ensuring their stay is reasonable. And we have these kind of standing human rights declarations, at least what do we call it here? European Convention on Human Rights. And that's forcing our hand, that's forcing us to accommodate these new residents in a way that if you elect me, we no longer have to, right? We'll just send them home, children too, goodbye. I think this is quite interesting, as many countries are seeming to switch stances. The mood is also switching. Like, I live in the United States and I feel the mood switching. At least I felt it switch almost. I feel like it's fully kind of reformed into a less pro, I guess, immigration without restriction sentiments, maybe. So this in the UK seems like he's trying to capitalize. Like, I see it. I see y'all are tired of this. I too am tired of it. Vote for me. These conservatives that are currently in power, they don't represent you. They don't sound like you. That's not what you want. I know what you want. You want the migrants that aren't here with authorization. You want them deported, and you want it to happen now. And all of this bureaucratic non-UK governance that's in between us and our deportation agenda, I will leave it. I mean, we have a lot here, right? It says nearly 29,000 people crossed the English Channel by boat in 2025, which is a 50% increase from the prior year. And one day, 659 people allegedly arrived. I mean, that's not nobody. You know, and up 50% means the trajectory is up. People are probably starting to feel that in their day-to-day activity. So the sentiment in these protests are probably garnered not only from the allocation of resources, but from the feeling of a country that is growing rapidly in ways that can't be accounted for. I wanted to say they're not organic. That's not quite the right word, but they are immediate. I mean, they are such that they can be destabilizing to all types of things. Public systems, transportation, education, culture, where these people are coming not from one location. Because it would also be one thing if they were all coming from, let's say, 60,000 Algerians showed up. Well, they're all Algerian. There's people coming from all over the place. This is a hodgepodge of various people looking to relocate to to do something different, right? To move from where they are to the UK. And this can be destabilizing, disorienting, and so on. There's and then there is just the resource thing, which I think is often undersold and often delegitimized. Is like, why, you just don't want to share with the people that need, and so on. And while I am sympathetic to that case, that like in the developed, first world, we tend to underappreciate the luxuries that we have, and thereby we don't quite understand how driven people are to cross a channel and to join the party, as it were. Like we need to treat those people kindly, and some ethics like suggest that we should be kind to these people. These people are risking their lives to remake their lives, and we shouldn't be so crass as to give me that piece of bread back. I am sympathetic to that case, but I am perhaps more sympathetic to the case that many of the voices advocating for that type of disposition don't recognize the hardship of the working classes in their own country. I don't have any bread to share. What do you mean? And then the accommodations feel like an insult. They're getting a free room. I can't afford my room. How possibly could the government skip my plight and give them a free room, a free phone, free food? This is absurd. The tension, I think, here is playing out. And Nigel Farage has long been a voice, giving rise to that idea, that sentiment, that we can no longer afford. We don't have to tolerate this behavior. And I think that's a big turning point. It is often phrased as inevitable or just, that the populations, the kind of local populations, the citizens must accept these changes because it's the right thing to do. And Nigel Farage is saying, nope, it's not. And if you vote for me, I'm gonna do what you want, which is deport these people who aren't authorized to be here. Don't care if they're 2 years old, 8 years old, 72 years old, not supposed to be here. Get out. So anyway, we'll see how this all goes. That's what's going on. I thought it was interesting and of note that the Reform Party in the UK is saying if elected, they're going to by 2029, they're going to they're going to deport a lot of people. I lost the number here, but some sizable amount of people they will deport. Okay, so cool. We'll move on to our next story. That was what was going on in the UK. Move right along. Next, we have the situation with the Fed governor. This is an intense one here in the United States. As we see, the Fed responds to Trump efforts to fire Lisa Cook. Who is Lisa Cook? Lisa Cook, governor of the U.S. Federal Reserve, arrives for the morning. I read a caption issue. My bad. The Federal Reserve on Tuesday said it would abide by any court decision on whether President Donald Trump has the legal authority to fire Board of Governors member Lisa Cook. The Fed, in a statement from a spokesperson, noted that Cook has indicated through her personal attorney that she will promptly challenge this action in court and seek a judicial decision that would confirm her ability to continue to fulfill her responsibilities as a Senate-confirmed member of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve Federal Reserve System. Okay, so Lisa says, I'm not going nowhere. Trump says, get out. The accusation is of mortgage fraud. So Trump says, I got reason. I believe you've been committing mortgage fraud. Fired. Get out of here. Right? And Lisa Cook says, I've done no such thing, and you don't have the authority to fire me. This will likely escalate, right? Because she's already saying, I'm going to court, right? And the courts are going to have to determine, can the president do this? This has never happened, right? So usefully, I might say, Trump's kind of aggression from the executive office has provoked many a constitutional question. Can you do that? Is often the response that I have to like what Trump is trying to do, deciding to do. I'm going to fire the governor of the board here, or sorry, one of the governors on the board system. I'm going to fire. And it's never happened, right? I think the Fed what 1913, 1914, something, 111, 112 years. So it's never happened. So we've never had to articulate whether or not this is legal, just, possible, allowed, maybe we would say. And we'll find out soon, right? Because he wants Lisa gone. I don't know much about the case, the specifics of it. I've been more or less sold from a kind of arrangement of narrative that, yeah, Lisa, it just sounds like you were signing some mortgage documents you shouldn't have been signing. But she is a black woman, and she is also the first black woman to occupy this position. So many of the critics of Trump who understand him to be a racist and a bigot are of the mind that this is just further evidence. So like he found the one black woman and was like fired. I'm a little more sympathetic to Trump's position regarding Lisa. I think I'm not sure it may overlap. Let me not say that. What I will say is it does appear that he has cause here. So like, well, where there's smoke, there might be some fire. And secondarily, I think he would fire nearly everybody he disagrees with at the Federal Reserve if given the like he is looking at the Fed and being like, move wrong and see what happens. I'm looking for any. Oh, you want to build a building, Jerome Powell? Oh yeah, man. Why y'all over budget? This looks like something you should be fired for. Like he's looking for any reason to get them out of their seats because he doesn't like how they're behaving. I am of the opinion we here at Mituye News want the Fed abolished, right? So our kind of radical philosophical underpinning suggests the Federal Reserve System is a part of a central banking logic, which is unsound, unjustifiable, and causing more harm than good. So we are an abolish the Fed crew over here. But us aside, kind of our position aside, this is fascinating because it's going to reveal something about the way our system is working / is intended to work. So like we'll find out, does the court think this is okay? And then we can agree or disagree with the court based on their logic, based on their understanding. Very much the central banking system requires or suggests there ought to be autonomy, some real independence of the Fed from the political, or they can't function properly, right? So they have like 14 years, 10 years. No one has ever been fired. They are trying to maintain their autonomy and independence to the highest degree possible because they have a job to do. And that job they can't do if they're subject rather to political wins is the case, right? It's like we can't have the Fed doing what the people or their representatives want because that's going to come into conflict with their mandate, which is to manage inflation and manage unemployment, right? Like to do that sometimes means making decisions that aren't politically popular. They're not politicians. They're not here to please you. They're here to manage unemployment and they're here to manage inflation. Your opinion be damned because you're not a, tenured economist. So you don't understand what needs to be done, right? In terms of quantitative easing and tightening and managing these things, that's beyond you. So your opinion, it can't be taken into account, or they can't complete the task. So anyway, that's what's going on. Trump is going to try to replace this position. Lisa says, I'm not going anywhere. The courts will decide and we'll go from there. But this is a relatively interesting, if nothing else, phenomenon, and it does seem to have some weight. Markets responded to this firing. It looks like positively. I don't have the charts or numbers in front of me, but I think crypto jumped, gold jumped. So the market seemed to be optimistic about Lisa being removed here from the system. We'll see how all of this plays out, but that's what's going on. Trump wants to fire Lisa Cook. Lisa Cook is going to sue Trump and says, you can't do that. You don't have the authority. And Allen doesn't know. The courts are going to have to decide something. And then I guess we can decide from there. We can judge for ourselves whether we agree or disagree with the logic of the courts. Okay, cool. Let's see what we got going next. We did the Fed here. West Virginia. What's going on in West Virginia? They're selling off their hospitals for the elderly. Let's take a look. West Virginia state hospitals being sold off by Morrissey serve elderly patients who have nowhere else to go. See, let's take a look at the story here. 4 state-owned hospitals in West Virginia often house and take care of elderly patients, some with complex medical problems and disabilities, who have nowhere else to go. Many patients rely on Medicaid and can't afford private care. Governor Patrick Morrisey is selling the facilities for $60 million, saying New York based Marks Development Group is buying the properties in Beckley, Fairmont, Terra Alta, and West Columbia and will retain the elderly patients and improve their care. Community members, and state leaders are hoping Morrissey's promises are true, but worry what it could mean for elderly patients now and in the future. The hospitals, which need millions of dollars in repair, could be torn down and rebuilt in other locations, removing patients from their communities and eliminating local jobs. So West Virginia is doing this. They're doing this in light of a 2023 restructuring of their health department, which allows things like this to happen without legislative approval. So the people's representatives don't contribute to this decision, right? This decision can be made outside of the purview of your representation. This isn't up to you as a resident, as a citizen of West Virginia, right? This isn't about that. So with this authority, the people in charge of this decision, seems like the governor, mainly, is going to go ahead and sell them. I think this provokes 2 very significant issues. One of which is the privatization of healthcare. So especially for, we'll call them poor and vulnerable. These are poor older people, or not, let me not call them poor, but they're often in need of government assistance to support their healthcare needs, right? So they can't be rich people. These aren't people that could just afford buy in-home care to take care of them. So they're in need of state assistance. Do we want that to be in private hands? Do we want people that are looking to make a profit to run these types of facilities? Some market enthusiasts say, yeah, like if you liberalize the healthcare market and you allow these private actors to do what they do best, we'll end up with better healthcare coverage writ large because the government sucks at everything. I'm not quite of that mind. I am quite concerned about shifts towards increased privatization of things like healthcare, especially in cases like elder care, where these people are quite vulnerable, quite isolated, and unable, often not unable, but lack what it takes. It sounds bad too, but aren't in a position to necessarily advocate for abuses. Right, so like they're in these private healthcare facilities. They're less likely than some groups, right, to be able to voice the horror if something is going wrong. And so that all makes me very nervous. So that's issue 1 on Alan's terms here in Mituye News. The second thought is of the cultural shift to like warehousing the elderly. In the West, particularly in the United States, we've become increasingly comfortable. It's become very normal to kind of shuffle off older people into institutions as they become less able to be functional participants in the labor market and also become in need of care, right? Many people aren't willing willing and able, it seems like a combination of the two, to take care of the older members of their family. Do we want that to be normal? We've been having a lot of conversations as a country, I'll say, about like children. For instance, do we want children to all be shuffled off while we all work? Is this arrangement working out for us? Similarly, older people, we don't talk about it as much, but I think it provokes a similar question. Are we satisfied with our cultural arrangement that leads to the kind of, I'll say, neglect or displacement of elders, right? There's no place for them in our day-to-day lives, so they have to go somewhere where they're cared for. This reminds me of that problem. But we'll see how this all plays out. I think it's of note West Virginia is selling off four in this case hospitals, which do elder care for a lot of patients who use Medicaid, Medicare, I forget the to take care of their healthcare needs. And this is, to me, troubling Make of it what you will. But I thought it was of note. It should be brought to our attention that this is happening in West Virginia. And we'll move right along to our final story of the day. Oh, the murders in DC. DC as the hotbed of all tension. Trump seeks death penalty for DC murders. What? We'll see what feels going on. The Trump administration will seek the death penalty as punishment for homicides in Washington, D.C., President Trump said on Tuesday during the 7th cabinet meeting of the term. Okay. This provoked all types of questions, legally and otherwise. Like, can he do this? It seems that the experts are kind of like with a qualification, but yes, if. Like, it looks like despite the arrangement, because DC is a very unique place, right? Kind of in its legal structure, given its relationship to the federal government and its lack of, we'll say, normal relations to state governance. Like, DC is kind of an outlier, right? It's kind of weird entity. And it appears that the federal government can do this. They can bring the types of federal charges to local murder cases that would allow them to override local laws which prohibit. I think they had several referendums. Let's see. The death penalty was nullified by the Supreme Court in 1972, repealed by the DC Council in 1981, and rejected 2-1 by voters in a 1992 referendum. So DC has rejected it once in 1972, repealed it in 1981, and then rejected again in 1992. So the people of DC have spoken 2 out of 3. Well, I guess not the people of DC. They've spoken once by vote. But DC has wrestled with this issue several times. Most recently, they rejected it. 1992, no more death penalty. DC says no. The federal government is going to override that decision and implement the death penalty by bringing the federal charges to these murder cases. Okay, that's what's going on. So it looks like the way is cleared for this to take place. The death penalty is currently legal in 27 states. The federal government can do it, and the U.S. military can do it. So we have a little bit of the institutions, the major ones, the Fed, the federal government, and the military can do it. The states seem to be split, right? 27 out of 50. So we clearly aren't on the same page as a country about our comfort with the death penalty. But nonetheless, they can do it. Trump thinks it's a very strong preventative. So he thinks, like, if I dangle the death penalty out here, y'all gonna cut this murder stuff out, right? That seems to be his proposition. We here at Mituye, we're anti-death penalty, largely because I think it obliterates the necessary understanding of fallibility in the criminal justice system, and innocence has to be protected. So the death penalty to me indicates that the justice system is so convinced it's correct in a case, right, that it's willing to kill the person. I'm skeptical enough of our legal proceedings to say, well, we just outright can't do it. What if we're wrong? Right? What if we kill an innocent person? And what if we could have done something differently to detain and punish this person we are nearly convinced committed said crime? Murder's bad. And certain acts of murder are abhorrent, right? They're horrific. We very much need to remove these people from, civil society. We can't live in a world in which people are behaving this way, right? However, we remain anti-death penalty. So we'll see where this goes. We'll see how the courts understand this move by the federal government. It looks, though, like he would be able to do that. What this looks like in practice will be fascinating and a little terrifying. I would try to try not to get in trouble with the law in relation to a murder case in that case. But my big fear is I misidentified, right? Like I didn't do it. And then they're going to put me to death. And the way the criminal justice system is set up right now, it's very hard to beat a federal case. It's like because the federal government wants to be right. It's kind of the logic of the federal government, right? Like they bring to bear a tremendous amount of legal power. And courts aren't always justice. They're about winning and losing cases. And Alan could lose and be murdered essentially by the government. Is Alan's concern, Alan's fear here. But the murders in DC must stop. So at the same time, it's of note that in my opinion and understanding, since the crack era, the murder rate in DC has been out of hand for quite some time. So we got to get these murders to stop. That needs to be said. No one in anywhere should, let alone my compatriots, no one should be afraid that they might be murdered, right? This should be like a shocking jar. Someone got murdered. That should be our sentiment. Not like, hey, yeah, man, you know what it is? It's DC, brother. Look out. You know what I'm saying? You was probably on that type of time. We shouldn't have that type of energy around something like murder. So that has got to be brought down. Is the death penalty the way to go about doing that? I still say no, but I do understand the urgency and the kind of fervor that's meant to be provoked by dangling the death penalty as a consequence for murder. All right, that's it for today. Y'all have a good day. As usual, I will remind you that the purpose of this newsletter is to help make American citizens harder to conquer by making them more aware of what's going on in the world around them. Check out the Substack, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Yeah, if you need me, reach out. Twitter, YouTube, comments, all that stuff. And voice your opinion. If you feel differently than me, we totally invite alternative points of view. We're not here to tell you what to think, but to provoke discussion. All right, you have a good rest of your day. I'll see y'all tomorrow.